Hello, everyone. Welcome. I was muted. You couldn't hear me. Okay, I think we're good now. It was giving me a "you're muted" warning. Hello, everyone. Let's try this again. Take two. Hi, my name is Mark Dolfini. You're here to learn about marketing magic. It's good to see you. So let us, before we get too far down the road, let me know. Um, let's see. Uh, please let me know where you're at and what line of work you're in. So I'm getting a warning from. There we go. All right. All right. Looks like Facebook is not liking me today. Sorry about that. All right. So that's not going. All right. We're just going to remove that. Sorry, guys. Okay. There we go. All right. And we're going to save changes. All right. Sorry about the rough start here. Facebook is giving me some sort of glitch. Okay. Very good. Kiona, good to see you again. Welcome. Please let me know where you're at, what line of work that you're in, because you are in marketing magic right now. We've got Kiona Carter in LA, California. You are in freight forwarding. Excellent. My dad was in that line of work for about 40 years. Except he did it on the other side of the country. He did it in New York and owned a pretty sizable company. He did quite well for himself. With a man with an eighth grade education, he really figured out commerce pretty quickly. And of course, this was back in the days of the Interstate Commerce Commission, where you weren't allowed to run outside certain routes. So it was actually pretty interesting time there. Well, you are here to learn about marketing magic. So if you are just joining me today, please let me know where you're at, where you're from, and what line of work that you're in, so I can do my best to make this relevant to you, because this really is about marketing magic for business owners. But if you are not a business owner, or maybe you're an entrepreneur, or you're just trying to get started, you're just trying to learn a little bit about marketing, I'm going to be hitting some things from a very top down perspective today. So we have a lot to cover. I'm going to try to land us pretty close to the top of the hour. So we've got a lot of different things to cover. Couple of quick housekeeping items. First and foremost, for those of you who signed up through Eventbrite, yes, you will be getting a replay of this sent to you. So it'll be whatever email you signed up with is going to be sent back to you for replay. I know some of you had mentioned that you weren't going to be able to stick around for the full event. That's totally fine. I totally get it. Life gets busy, but you will be getting that in the replay, and then that'll be sent to your email. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, this will be carved up a little bit and then reposted on YouTube as well. And I think some of you are joining on LinkedIn. And so again, if you are joining me right now, please let me know where you're at and what kind of business that you're in, so I can make this relevant to you. We've got Oyin in Aberdeen, and you're a parenting coach. Very good. Very nice to have you here, Oyin. Excellent. And Aberdeen, Scotland. I figured you meant Scotland, but I wasn't going to. I think I have my family, my mother's side is actually from Scotland, and it's been a long time. I'm trying to think if we made it to Aberdeen. Here it's beautiful there. All of Scotland is beautiful, honestly. So Mawuli is Akragana, and you're an entrepreneur. Excellent. Let me know what line of work that you're also in. Yep. Hello, Ian. Okay. So this is, if you're in marketing, and we're going to get right into this right now. It's another quick question. So again, I get this all the time. If you are not able to stick around, yes, you'll be getting the replay. Number two, please try not to multitask. I know it's super hard. I know you're on your phones. I know you're trying to do other things. I just don't want you to miss any nuggets over the next hour or so. So do your very best. Try to stay plugged in the best that you can. I know it's super hard, but really what I want you to do is also train your brain to be really effective at dialing in when you need to dial in. All right. So that's really what we're going to be covering over the next hour. So marketing magic, they understand the role of marketing. The job of your marketing is to first, second, third, fourth, and 10th job of marketing is to create trust with your client avatar. If you cannot get them to trust you, they are not going to buy from you. They're not even going to want to inquire from you. And there's trust on so many sides of the equation that you have to consider when you're thinking about this. And I know right now, especially, and I hear whenever I get into the marketing conversations, people think that that's the same thing as posting, that marketing is posting on the internet. It's a component, but it is not Posting is not marketing. Posting is just kind of, again, it's developing affinity, it's developing familiarity, but it is not marketing. So I want to make sure that we're clear on this, because there are certain things around, especially direct response marketing, where you're asking the person to take a very specific action. It's a component of it, but in and of it's by itself, posting. I hear people say, "Oh man, I'm posting 18 times a day and I'm not getting any traction." Okay, it's a component, but it's not everything. So your job is not to entertain. It's not to sit there and make them laugh. It's not to make them feel good. It's not even for you to get views, but your assignment first and foremost is to get them to trust you. Now, there are many trust triggers. We're going to talk about some trust triggers here in just a few minutes, and we're going to go through several of them. But right out of the gate, I just want you to understand it is your job to build trust. So if you can't get them to trust you, now you might be thinking, well, how do I do that? Look, the fastest way to create trust with someone is to demonstrate competence. Demonstrate that you know what you're talking about. Think about this for a hot second. If you were watching someone's video and within a few seconds, if you felt like they were kind of talking out of their butt, or they really didn't have anything really valuable to offer, you probably had them low on the trust equation. Even if they say, well, they're trying to sell me something. Okay. Does that mean that you don't trust them, or you don't even trust yourself to get on a call with them because you don't want to say no? How many times have you not wanted to talk to a salesperson because you knew your ability to say no is compromised? I've done that. I don't like to say no to people, especially if they're nice guys. I have people that don't want to talk to me, and they just feel that I'm going to try to sell them on something that they don't need, which, by the way, has never been my approach. But in my marketing, I want to create and generate trust. And the fastest way to do that is to demonstrate competence. Let them know that you know what you're talking about, and do it in a way where you're inviting them in. Do that in a way where you're bringing them into the conversation. And what's a way you can do that? You can do that through story. Tell people some stories. Tell people how you struggled. Tell people how you figured something out. Let them know, because they just want you to be their guide, not their hero. That's a big difference. So I want you to start thinking, as we're going through all of this, how can you demonstrate competence to your avatar? So when it comes to trust, again, the important thing to remember is that the market judges you by your samples. It judges you by what you give away. So if you're giving stuff away for free, that's the only thing they have to judge you by. If you say, well, you have to pay for it before you can really get to see the good stuff. If that's the case, that's a lot of trust. Think about it. Would you buy a car? Would you buy a brand new car and spend $100,000 on that car if you weren't allowed to test drive it? I mean, it stands to reason. Would you buy a car for, say, $50 if you weren't allowed to test drive it? Yeah, probably. I mean, you're like, well, is there any bodies in there, right? Is there any blood in there? Is this a crime scene, right? So what I'm saying is, I want you to think about that is, especially with the higher dollar transactions, the more that's required, the more time that's required. If you're going to say, hey, hop on a 3-hour call with me and we'll talk about all the things that you need to talk about, dude, that's a big investment in time. If you say, hey, let's hop on a quick 10-minute call, that's a much lower amount of investment in time. Do you see what I'm saying? So you've got time investment, you got money investment, but the thing is, how can you demonstrate competence to your avatar within that time frame that you're given? That's really, really important to consider. So when you're looking for marketing, the real marketing gold is when you're creating trust. So here's just some trust triggers right out of the gate. Okay, so these aren't the trust triggers. These are the 7 elements of trust. But think about this. The first 2 elements of competence and character, these 2 things right here are everything. Because if you demonstrate bad character in your marketing, so let's say for argument's sake that you're posting something, or you have an ad that's running, or whatever it is, and when you were demonstrating something where you're saying, oh, well, yeah, I know I drink way too much alcohol. In fact, I'm drunk right now as I'm writing this ad. Really? I mean, some people might resonate with that, but I don't know. Unless you sell alcohol and to alcoholics, I don't know how well that's going to work. But I'm saying that can demonstrate a lack of character. Or if you talk about being a womanizer, or, being, something that's just not affirmed in society as good character that could hurt you. It definitely does not add to trust. So when it comes to trust, it begins, ends, and starts, and everything revolves around character. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Talk more about it here in a second. Competence is, again, knowing that you know what you're talking about. You have to know what you know. And then when it comes to competence, it is demonstrating to them and giving them some of the good secret sauce. If you're holding back all your secret sauce and you're like, well, I'd answer that question, but you got to pay me for that sort of thing. Man, I get it. I do. And I used to do that a lot. It never worked out the way I wanted it to. It just didn't. They weren't going to be buyers anyway. But if I left them walking away, if I let them walk away in a better state than when they came to me. And now, again, I am going to draw hard barriers around my time. So if someone's saying, hey, can you help me implement this 17-step strategy in my business? No, I can't. That's a pretty large investment in time to do it well. But I'm happy to hop on a call with you and walk you through it and see if you're on the right steps, right? If you're on the right path. That I could do, and that would allow me to demonstrate my competence. So the way that I look at trust, and I know this is very big picture, and you're thinking, man, is this really about marketing? Yeah, this is absolutely around marketing, because the real marketing magic is that people, and it's interesting because I had quite a few people on the call. I've got quite a few people coming back on the call, but it's interesting. I had a lot of people on the call, and it's like they're looking for these nuggets, and I'm delaying this a little bit, not a lot, not on purpose. But here's the thing. Everybody was coming on this call and they're coming on like, oh, I want to learn that one nugget. I want to learn that one thing. And guess what? Their marketing is still going to suck tomorrow because they're not learning the foundations of basic buying psychology. That's what I'm trying to teach you. That is what I do as a strategist. I'm not a tactician. I don't do like, hey, come to me and I'm going to help you tweak your Facebook ads so you can get 3% better impressions. That's not what I do. What I do is I formulate good strategy with tacticians. In fact, this morning I was on a call with my client and the client that so let me say this another way. I was on the phone with my client and he had hired a marketing company. And that marketing company and I are basically working for the same individual. Well, guess what? That marketing company and I have a wonderful relationship. It's a great relationship. So that's what I'm saying. Like and that develops and initiates from trust. I help create the strategy, they implement. So that's the difference between strategy and tactics. But let's get back to trust. So when you're looking at trust, you've got competence and character. Those two elements of trust are the trees that share a symbiotic root system. They have a symbiotic relationship with each other. They share the same root system. And the fruit of those two trees is the rest of the elements of trust. And it's you got competence, character, caring, confidence, commitment, communication, and consistency. All these 7 elements of trust are absolutely critical. And if any one of them are missing, people are not going to trust you and you may never know why. So this is really important. So this is, let's see, someone says, Mawuli is in restaurants. Excellent. Very good. And head is, okay, can you stop? Sure. I don't know what you mean, but yes. And Kiana is saying no. All right. I'm not sure what is. Okay. So anyway, the main elements that I want you to think about is these other elements of caring, confidence, commitment, communication, and consistency. Those are fruits that are born by each of those trees of competence and character. So let's look at caring. Can people trust how much you care? Have you ever heard the phrase people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care? Absolutely true. And again, this goes for leadership, it goes for sales, and it sure as heck goes for marketing. People want to feel like you care, not just about the sale, but about them as human beings. I got into an interesting conversation today with a friend of mine, and he is in New York, and he operates a service-related business. And we got talking about how customer service has really gone to hell in a handbasket. And I said, you know what? Maybe customer service has gone to hell in a handbasket, and maybe they are demonstrating that they don't care. But when did customer behavior go to hell in a handbasket, where people just walk up and are scrolling on their phones and never make eye contact with the individual across from them, making the whole entire thing feel like a transaction? They feel like they don't care. Both sides are guilty here, and there's a lack of trust. Look at confidence. How confident are you, and how much confidence trust do you inspire? Think about this. If in your marketing you wrote something like, yeah, this might possibly could maybe work for you, but it might. Who's going to even think about buying into that kind of trust? No one. Your marketing, whether that is through a video, whether that is through your ad copy, whatever that is, it needs to inspire confidence. You need to inspire confidence, trust. What about commitment, trust? I see this all the time. And I see this all the time with entrepreneurs. And again, feel free to let me know if you think this. And by the way, if you guys have questions along the way, go ahead and type them into the chat. But when it comes to commitment trust, I see this often, especially with business owners that consider themselves to be serial entrepreneurs. And I see this all the time, where I ask them what business they're in, and they tell me 3 or 4 different things. And I'm like, okay, so if I was to ask the people in your town what it is that you do, is any one of them going to be able to tell me all 4 of those things? Or probably none of those things, because they're going to be so confused about what it is that you do. And that, it shows a lack of commitment. If you can demonstrate your commitment to whatever the thing is, especially in your marketing, especially in your ad copy, how could you do that? Listen, I'll give you a great example. I have several courses that I sell. There's a money and finance course that I have that's being sold right now. And I offer a 395-day guarantee on that. And you're like, that sounds like a lot. Yeah, it's 30 days to learn the material and an entire year to implement. And if they feel at any point in time that the training wasn't good, within that 395 days, they can ask for their money back. That's commitment. That's how sure I am that this training is really, really good. So, and that's just the way, that's how committed I am. What about communication? Communication trust shows up in a couple of different ways. Communication trust shows up not only in clarity, but it also shows up in consistency. It's interesting. I don't know if anybody follows Gary Vaynerchuk. I actually like him. He's a little too brash at times, and I think it's unnecessary, but I really appreciate the way he's been saying the same message over and over and over to people, and yet they still don't seem to get it. And one of the things he talks about in terms of communication is doing it often and having lots of communication, being promotive. And well, he'll ask, how many times have you posted on LinkedIn last week? Well, I post about, once a week. And he's saying the same thing. Great. Now do that 10 times a day. And he's like, 10 times a day? Yeah, that's what other people are not willing to do. That's why that's hard. But again, if you want the same results, then stay with what you're doing. But he's been saying that same message. I've been following him for maybe 2 years now, and I know he's been saying that same thing for probably about the last 15 years, is communication. So not just be clear in your communication and about being clear in terms of who you're communicating with, but being frequent enough about that to really make a difference. The last piece is consistency. How consistent are you being in your communication? How much consistency trust are you developing with your avatar? So think about this. When communication is about doing it often, 7 is about doing it consistently. Meaning, are you doing it 10 times in one day, and then once, and then none, and then 5, and then 10, and then 11, and then 3? Are you consistent? It sounds like you're consistently bad. So again, this is the sort of trust that people need to feel that you are bringing to the table. And that's important. So so these elements of trust, I want you to think about these where you might be lacking in your consistency. Are you demonstrating your competence? Are you showing what you know you're talking about? Are you demonstrating lack of character or caring or confidence, commitment, communication, or consistency? Any one of these areas. Anyone, like right now for me, I don't think I'm lacking on really any of these. Maybe consistency might rank the lowest, but when I say the lowest, I'm saying maybe 8 out of 10. Everything else across the board, I would rank myself as a 9 or 10. But that's also because I've been really, really intentional about building these levels of trust in all 7 of these areas. So as we continue on here, I want you to think about seeking knowledge to understand versus just seeking knowledge to take action. And I want you to think at the end, what are you going to actually do about this stuff that you learned today? Because here's the truth. When it comes to marketing, you can have the best, most efficient business. You can be an absolute paragon of truth, justice, and virtue. Your sales technique is so completely dialed in, you could sell ice to Eskimos and voting booths to Castro, and you can still starve. And that's the truth. So if you're going to try to have a marketing engine that's really going to drive growth in your organization, you have to spend a lot of time being very intentional with your lead generation. So this is a book here. This book is actually my first book. It's called The Time-Wealthy Investor. And when I originally wrote that book, I was it's a good book. It's about 280 pages, and it's a book written for property managers and mom and pop investors. So that book, and it's a good book. And what I did, I spent about 2 years writing the book, editing the book, getting the cover designed. Going through all the grinding and back and forth and all the things with Amazon, and I got it published. And I was like, you're welcome, world. There's your book. There's the book that's going to solve all of your problems. And it is a good book. And I'm not saying it's a good book because I'm saying it's a good book. I'm saying it's a good book by the people who have read it, who've really given me really solid feedback about it. And I am proud to say, somewhat proud to say, actually, I'm not proud to say this at all. My book sales in the first 30 days was, drumroll, $0. That's right. I did not sell one book. I did not sell one book to one person that I did not know. And I'm not talking like my immediate family, because I just basically gave them the books. I was like, this is going to be way harder than I thought. So I started learning the marketing side of things because I realized I never sold a book before. So I created this brand called Landlord Coach because, again, this was a brand focused around landlords, property managers, people who are having trouble managing their rental properties. So I created this brand. I started learning about funnels and click funnels, and I started posting a lot more. And, I was doing some marketing and emailing and cajoling and really started to put a lot of effort into selling this book. I paid for Amazon ads. I paid for Facebook ads. I paid for Google ads, and my volume did increase. I spent 3 months doing nothing but trying to sell these darn books. And from all that effort, I went from $0 in sales to $95.64. I was heartsick. I was like 2 years to write and publish this book. No sales. Another 90 funnels. Okay, does anybody know what I'm talking about here? Does anybody felt this before? Buying other people's courses, creating a brand, spending money and more money. And I felt like the only people who were making money were the people who were the advertisers. That's it. And by the way, this represented 12 sales. So keep in mind, this wasn't even profit. I was selling the book at break even just to try to get some traction. So how many of you would have felt completely discouraged at this point? Yeah, this is like my discouraged face. Well, listen, why didn't they buy the books? Because I was trying to sell them information when what they wanted was transformation. I was trying to sell them books when what they wanted was their life to be better. I was selling the trip and not the vacation, right? Think about it. If I was going to say, hey, do you want to pack up all your stuff for 2 weeks and lug it all the way to the airport, like an hour and a half drive, then drag all this stuff that you own through this airport, give it to strangers, and hopefully they're going to put it on the right airplane, then eat some, okay food, and then get on an airplane for 7 hours So then you can do the same thing in reverse and then go stay in a strange bed in some place and then maybe get to the beach at some point. No, who in the world is going to want to sign up for that? That is the way I was trying to sell the book. I was selling them based on the features of the book. Hey, it's a 280-page book. And I was thinking, wow, someone might really be impressed by that because it's 280 pages. There's probably a lot of really good information in there. Yeah, I was selling them the trip. They're going 280 pages. When the heck? I'm already time weary. When am I going to have a time to learn about being time wealthy? I'm already bankrupt in time. When am I going to have time to read this 280-page book? No matter how good the prescription, I'm not going to take the medicine. That was selling the trip and not the vacation. So what should I have done better? I should have said, hey, look, in chapter 5, if you have this issue, this is what you should probably read. Don't even read the first part of the book. Read chapter 5. Read that first. That would have been far better to help them say, hey, if you've got this problem, read this first. And then what am I doing? I'm demonstrating a little bit. I'm demonstrating my competence. I'm letting them know, hey, do you have problems collecting rent from people on time? I know exactly how to help you fix this. And again, it's okay. Like now they go, okay, he understands my problem. He's demonstrating some competence. Let me see. Let me at least lean in and see if I like what he's saying. So this is, again, they fundamentally did not trust me, nor did they trust themselves to buy another book that they were going to set on their bookshelf and not read. How many people have done that? Okay. I've got so many books. I'm probably gonna have to live to 1,000 at this point to read them all. But the point is, they didn't trust themselves to buy yet another book that they weren't going to read. So that was, this again comes back to the trust equation. So because they didn't trust themselves to implement or read the book, they didn't buy it. I had done very little to demonstrate trust with my avatar. So again, we'll come back to this here in a little bit when we talk about trust triggers. So this is what it looked like for me. Eventually I did start making money through Landlord Coach, and these were my revenues. If you see this tiny little sliver at the bottom, in 2017 into 2018, I was making about $2,000 or $3,000 a month in monthly revenues. And that was mostly through coaching. And then all of a sudden my revenue started shooting up, and I was making about $8,000 a month. And then by halfway through COVID, I was making about $17,000 a month. And I could have kept up that with that trajectory, but something changed for me in 2020. And honestly, I didn't want to stay in that same niche that I was in. So I pivoted and decided to leave real estate coaching and seek people who are solopreneurs, business owners, entrepreneurs, and people who have less than 20 employees. And what I experienced in the early days was a lot of false confidence. We'll talk about that here in the end. But this is the thing. I just want to go through the rest of the agenda for today. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the systems component of a business, and then we're going to talk about psychology, specific psychology that is relevant to you in your marketing. We're going to talk about the 4 core functions of business. We're going to get to marketing magic and having controlled growth in your business and not something that's going to metastasize into something horrible. But then we're going to talk about some different resources. So everything that I'm talking about in this next piece, which is the Viper framework, this is stuff that I have written about in this book over my shoulder or the book on the screen. And that is the Time Wealthy Advantage. If you want to get a copy of that, if you live outside the United States, I know several of you live outside the U.S. That's totally fine. You can get it through Amazon. If you live in the U.S., you can get it on strategicboardroom.com. Right in the very front page, you can click the first button that you see. So what we're going to be talking about is the Viper framework. And that Viper framework is a top-down strategic approach to managing and creating a life in a business. And not a life that exists to serve the business, but a business that exists to serve your life. That's the difference. So the Viper framework is actually an acronym for vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. And this Viper framework, the Viper framework specifically to vision, has 2 components. It has personal vision and business vision. The personal vision is like, okay, cool, where is it you want to go? So like, Mawuli, where do you want to go in life? Oh, yeah, and where do you want to go in life? Kiona, where do you want your life to be if your job description wasn't also your life description? Where what you do for money has nothing to do with who you are as a human being. So think about that. Think about if you woke up with $30 million or 30 million pounds or 30 million, whatever lots of units are in your currency. If you didn't have to worry about income generation anymore, what would that look like for you? So Where do you want to go? What do you want that to look like? And then the business vision says, great, how are we going to get there? So you're going to reverse engineer this business that's going to deliver this personal vision for you. And many times I've sat next to people in conferences and seminars and masterminds where their personal life, they've given no consideration at all to their personal life. Yeah, they go on vacation, and guess what they do the entire time they're on vacation? They work. They work while they're sitting there returning emails at the beach, and they can't wind down. They don't know how because they've never given any consideration to a personal vision. So this is the danger. And the danger in creating a business vision before giving any consideration to a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. So again, I want you to please just, if you do nothing else, just think about what your personal vision would look like and then create this business that you can reverse engineer that will deliver this personal vision for you. So when we're looking at business vision, when we're defining the business vision, there's 3 C's to business vision. And the 3 C's of business vision, what these things do is understanding these 3 elements of business vision will massively make your marketing stand out and make it massively more effective. It's every single time I get hired as a strategist or as a fractional CSO, fractional chief strategic officer, fractional meaning I'm hired and I work for other companies, but I am dedicated to them. When I'm hired in that capacity, I look through these lens of these 3 C's, and every time I see a dysfunctional organization, it's because one of these 3 C's is not well defined, or usually all of them. So the 3 C's of business vision are core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Core purpose, core values, client avatar. When you're looking at your core purpose, the core purpose of the business is specifically what business are you in and specifically what problems do you solve. And it's really important you be highly specific in your answers. If you were just going to say, well, I'm in real estate, right? Mawula, you said restaurants. Okay. Does that mean you are a supplier to restaurants? Does that mean you own restaurants? Does that mean you own multiple different types of restaurants? I have no idea. You're saying you're in restaurants, that to me, and I'm not picking on you. I know the question was truncated, so you didn't have a lot to say. But if you're saying you're in restaurants, that could mean mobile food trucks. That could mean distribution. That could mean a physical restaurant. That could mean you're the maitre d'. I have no idea. Or consulting for restaurants. That's a thing. So what I'm saying is it's really important that you're dialed in to the true core purpose and making that based around an avatar, making that based around who it is you serve. Think about this. You probably do lots of different things in your business, in your organization, and that's fine. That's like being a mechanic. A mechanic doesn't only replace the left headlight on a vehicle. No, they'll probably replace both headlights on a vehicle. A mechanic doesn't just work on replacing wiper blades. They probably also do brake jobs. They probably also do muffler jobs, so forth and so on. So think about this. What is the core purpose of the business? What business are you in specifically, and what problems do you solve? Keona is saying that's a great question. Yeah, it is. I'm telling you, when you really think about what question that is, or the answer to that question, when you think about what business that you're really in, and when you say, well, I'm just in real estate, that's way too vague. But most of the times when I'm asking people they're asking me for help in their marketing and their lead generation, and I say to them, okay, well, what business are you in? And they can't articulate that to me. I say, that's the first thing you need to fix. Because what you're doing is you're trying to occupy the mental real estate of people in that space. I am a strategist. What I do is I help people figure out what direction they want to go in. I help them figure out where they want to go, and then I get them there. That is what I do as a strategist. People say, well, he's a coach. No, I employ some of the tools of coaching, but I am not a coach. There's differences and nuances between what coaches do and what I do as a strategist. So those are two different things. Although I'll grant you, they look similar, but that's the thing is I don't necessarily refer to myself as a coach as much as I am a strategist. And even though the thing on the wall says coaching, yeah, strategic coaching. That is important because, again, I do employ the tools of a coach from time to time, but strategy work is what I base it all in. That's my core purpose. And I base that around a core avatar. We'll talk about avatar here in a second. So that's the core purpose. Next is core values. Core values is what matters to you about this business. And how would the world be worse off if you were no longer in business? And I hear every time I say this in front of a room full of live people, inevitably there's going to be a couple people who kind of roll their eyes, said like, oh, here comes this squishy, soft skill core value stuff. I respect that. But they would be 100% wrong. By the way, I would be one of those people rolling their eyes when I would hear stuff about this all the time. Man, it's about making money. People just need to do what they're going to do, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. The best companies are the ones that have an absolutely killer culture. They are amazing in their culture. And because they have a great culture, where do you think that came from? It came from a defined set of core values. And that is the thing that I'm, hold on, I got some questions here. Mawuli, I'm learning a lot here. Okay, excellent. Very good, Mawuli. Glad. More important than that, Mawuli, I'm glad that you're learning a lot. I want to know what you're going to implement. So hold on to that question to the end. I want to know specifically what you're going to implement. Mawuli saying core purpose, is that one core problem your business solves? It can be multiple problems your business solves. So I'll give you an example in my own case. So you're going to learn about this here in a second. But in the 4 core functions of business, they are lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. I help people in all 4 of those functions, in their lead generation, in their sales, in their operations, in the accounting. And I do that by looking at both systems and psychology. I help them implement systems, and then I help them organize and implement things around individual and organizational psychology. That's actually what I'm in school for now. I'm pursuing my PhD in industrial and organizational psychology. So I have lots of tools in my toolbox, just like a mechanic would to fix a passenger vehicle. Would you bring your lawnmower to the mechanic that works on passenger cars? They might be able to figure it out. I mean, there's probably some translation, but they're like, dude, I don't want to work on your lawnmower because I can't charge you enough to where it's worth my while. Because I'm going to have to tear down this lawnmower and figure it all out. And I'm going to have to charge you 5 hours of labor, and you probably could have just gone out and bought a new one. Does that make sense? So there's certain things that I do as a mechanic, right, as a strategist, around those 4 core functions. And I have lots of tools in my toolbox around those 4 core functions. If you were to start to ask me about international trade law, I have no idea. I could give you an opinion, but I would not be able to if you were asking me about taxes in your home country, I have no clue. I would have to ask someone who is trained in accountancy in your neck of the woods. I don't know, but do I understand finance and accounting in terms of generally accepted accounting principles? Yes, I do. And I'm pretty darn good at it. That's because I know where my limitations are. I'm not trying to be all things to all people. I just know my avatar really, really well. And that's why you may have multiple problems that you will solve for your avatar. Just like, again, bringing your car to a mechanic. Can they fix your tire? Sure. Can they fix your brake light? Sure. Making sense? Okay. So it's generally more than one core problem. So I guess if it's a core problem you want to think about the mechanic is they get people on the road again safely. Okay. I help do what I do by education, training, accountability. So the core values of a business is basically what matters to you about this business and how would the world be worse off if you went out of business. Remember that your business is an extension of you. Your business is an extension of who you are. So whatever core values you bring into the equation as an individual, you're bringing to the organization, and you're going to infuse those core values into your business vision. And you have to take the time to define them. And you might be thinking, well, how do I define my core values? I'll tell you. Values, we have lots of different values, for sure. All of us do. But the things that are core values, there's only a few core values. And I would say this. How do you determine the difference between a value and a core value? I would say a core value is a value that matters to you so much that you're willing to get up off the couch and go do something about it. Make sense? So let's say that you're sitting at home and you hear something outside that sounds like a gunshot, okay? And you're pretty sure it's a gunshot. So what do? You're probably going to make sure your family is safe first, get them away from the doors and windows, and you might go creep out and say like, "Hey, what's going on outside?" Right? That's enough for you to get about because you value your safety, you value your family's safety. Those are the sorts of things that would be a core value. Okay? So if you, let's say again, I value peanut M&Ms. Am I going to box someone for peanut M&Ms? No, they make too many and I'll just go buy more, right? I'm not going to go to war over peanut M&Ms. But if someone breaks in my home and threatens my family, yeah, I'm going to war. So I'm just saying, like, that's how you know something is a core value when you're willing to get up and off the couch. Let me ask you something. Has anybody here ever lost a friend, or maybe it was a romantic interest, someone that you had to let go because they were heading down a path that you weren't willing to follow? Yeah, that sucks. And it happens all the time. And the reason why is because their actions were violating a core value. So I'm bringing this all up and I'm taking so much time on this because people don't take the time to actually define their core values. So look at that violation of that core value over there, define what that violation was and say, well, they were lying to me, they were lying to their family, and I just couldn't put up with that dishonesty. Okay, so honesty is probably a core value, right? I don't like people lying to me, but is honesty a core value of mine? I don't know. I've had friends lie to me, and then I kind of realized why they were, because maybe they were ashamed of something, maybe they felt guilty about something, so they lied to me to cover it up. So to me, I'm like, I'm not really I don't say it's a core value, but it's certainly a value, right? But integrity to me means a lot more. That's saying one thing and doing another. Even though integrity and honesty sound similar, they're not the same. So for me, integrity is a lot more important than honesty. So that's why I'm saying, like, I do value them both, but integrity is probably more of a core value of mine than honesty is. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but that's just the way I look. And that's how you start defining these things. Define these values by your excesses, by your excessively good or your excessively bad things that go on in your life. What was the violation? And the excessively good things in your life, if you could revisit them, what would that look like? What were those representations of core values for you? So that's how you're going to do that. And again, the reason why you're taking the time to define your core values is because core values define your company culture, and your company culture and your company brand are inextricably linked. So your core values are your company culture is what's experienced by the people inside your organization. Your company brand is what's experienced by people outside your organization. So just keep that in mind when you're defining these core values. The last component of this, especially as it relates to your marketing, is defining your client avatar. We talked core purpose, we talked core values. Now we're talking client avatar. Who specifically and ideally do you want to serve? And I want you to think, like, you have to be really dialed in on this. And I will tell you, when I ask people their core purpose and they cannot tell me, when I ask people their core values and it's like, yeah, I just seem to be attracting all the wrong type of people. Well, what do you mean? And they tell me, I'm like, well, it sounds like they're a violation of a core value. Why did you take them on in the first place? Well, I needed the money. I don't know. I just didn't think it was that big of a deal, yada, yada. Have you ever worked at a company where you just hated everything that the bosses stood for? Yeah, that's a violation of core values. It's a misalignment. So when you're looking at your client avatar and now you're attracting the people who are aligned with your core purpose, now you're attracting people who are aligned with your core values, you want to think about who specifically and ideally do you want to serve. And keep in mind, it could be multiples of people. It could be one individual. It could be a couple. It could be a group. It could be a team. It could be a boardroom, whatever. But who are these people and how do you want to serve them? And what are their geographics, their demographics, and their psychographics? Geographics is where they are. That's pretty straightforward. Where are they living? And not just geographically where are they living, but are they living rurally? They live in the suburbs? Do they live in a highly rural area? Where do they live? The demographics are about who they are. Are they married? Are they single? Are they wealthy? Are they poor? Are they educated? Are they not? The last component to this is psychographics, and that's how they think and how they buy. So when you're thinking of psychographics, I want you to think of the phrase ALIA. That's ALIA. That's their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, and their aspirations and goals. So when you're thinking about their attitudes, what is their attitude towards your product or service? What's their attitude towards your industry? Most of my money comes in through real estate. And depending on who you talk to, some people do not like the real estate industry. Okay, that would be important for me to know up front if before I start talking and making comments to people, not knowing their attitude. Or what's their lifestyle like? Are they young and jet setting, or are they old and they like to stay home with their grandkids? What are their interests? Do they like American football, or do they like European football? Do they like NASCAR, or do they like Formula One? Either way, what are their aspirations and goals in life? And once you know their aspirations and goals, it's massively easier for you to market to them, because a lot of times your product or service can be aligned with their aspirations. These are all really important elements for you to know. So those are the 3 C's of business vision. So you might be thinking, okay, I've got a little bit of work to do. Okay, so in the chat, let me know, which one of these 3 do you feel like you have pretty well dialed in? And which one of these 3 do you feel like, hey, that's the next one I'm going to work on? I want you to think. You can put it in the chat if you like, or you can just keep it to yourself. But I want you to think about, yes, that's something I really need. From a 1 to a 10, I'm like an 8. I'm actually pretty good on that one. But from a 1 to a 10, I'm like a 2, and I really have no clue. And I will tell you this, if it's not written down, you can't give yourself more than a 5. I'm just saying, they have to be written down, because our brain will play tricks on us, and we'll just start misremembering different things. I just want to make this quick point, especially as it relates to your marketing, is your job, especially in your marketing, is not to provide good service. Your job is not to have a satisfied customer. And I'm putting these things in air quotes. You know why? Listen, Kiona or Mawuli, let's say that you guys, you take some friends out to a local restaurant, and you walk in, you're seated reasonably quickly, you're handed a menu, you order food, they bring drinks, the food is good, drinks are good, the bill comes, you pay it, it's reasonable, it's satisfying, you get up and you leave. The meal was satisfying. It wasn't amazing. The service wasn't knock the server. It was satisfying. Who are you going to tell about that satisfactory engagement? Who are you telling? Probably no one. You probably won't even give it a second thought. But your job is not to have a satisfied customer. Your job is to have raving fanatics about your business. And it all starts in your marketing. And this is why if knowing that this is the end goal, it's going to massively impact how much you're going to change your marketing. And really, this is the real magic that happens in your marketing. So, starting by having these raving fanatics about the brand and all of those different elements around the core purpose, core values, and client avatar, that's your job. So now you just got to put the components together. You've got the recipe. Now you just need to mix it up. So let's talk about 4 different types of traffic. When you're looking at traffic types, there's actually 5 types, but I'm just putting 4 up here just for now. The 4 different types of traffic are frozen traffic, cold traffic, warm traffic, and hot traffic. And most people get this wrong when I ask them. They say, well, what do these temperatures mean? I'm going to tell you what they specifically mean. And this is how you're going to direct different types of marketing to the people that you're advertising to. And most people get this wrong. So, your frozen traffic, these are people who are not even problem aware. Okay, so let's use an example. Sorry, I'm very thirsty today. So, let's say, for example, that you have let's say that you have an example like where you click on Google or something and it takes you to an ad. Okay, and you know it's an ad. But what's the ad say? The ad says 7 ways cucumbers are going to kill you. And P.S. this includes pickles. And you're like, oh man, honey, did we have pickles on our hamburgers last night? You're like, yep, we sure did. Like, oh man, right? So like, I don't want to die because of the cucumbers I'm eating. So again, 7 ways cucumbers are going, or it will kill you. You click on it, knowing full well it's clickbait, but you do it anyway. I do it all the time. So what this does is it starts educating you about the origin of cucumbers. Everything I'm saying right now about cucumbers, I'm completely making up. I don't know anything about cucumbers or how they're grown, except they grow on plants. That's about all I know. So you'd say, okay, well, did you know that most cucumbers are grown in Ecuador, and because they are shipped from Ecuador, they have to spray it with a certain chemical, and this chemical causes you, when it's shipped to your country, your home country, that certain chemical causes buttworms. Okay, well, I don't want buttworms, so I'm going to keep reading. So you are now problem aware. Up to this point, I never knew. Ignorance was bliss. I never knew anything was wrong potentially with my cucumber consumption. But now I'm problem aware. So I have now graduated. I've been warmed up a little. I am no longer frozen traffic. I am now problem aware. I am now aware that there's a problem with my with the type of cucumbers that I'm likely eating, that I'm likely been eating, and they are sprayed with a special chemical. I could have buttworms. Okay. Now I am aware. I am now problem aware. So I go from frozen traffic to cold traffic. Now, what am I going to do? I got to warm it up a little bit more. So now it's like, okay, well, so what can be done about this? Well, what you can do is you can buy cucumbers that are grown local in your home country. That way they don't have to be sprayed with this special chemical. In fact, they are organically grown with no chemicals, nothing like that. It's all 100% natural. So no special chemicals, anything like that. And that's what you can do to help prevent you getting buttworms. You are now graduated to warm traffic. You are now solution aware. My solution to not getting buttworms by eating cucumbers is to eat homegrown cucumbers grown in my home country that are not sprayed with that special chemical. I am now solution aware. I am now solution aware. I am now warm traffic. The last component of this is hot traffic. Now, as you read on, by the way, if you would like to buy some locally grown cucumbers that will be drop shipped directly to your door, by the way, we have an entire assortment of pickles. You can buy these, and by the way, over the next 10 minutes, timer pops up on the screen, you can buy 3 jars for the price of 1, and they'll be doing for first-time customers only, and they'll be delivered directly in your house, over the next 12 hours. Great. You are now aware. They are now aware of you. So they are now problem aware. They're solution aware. They are you aware. So the thing that you have to think like, okay, so does this mean they're ready to buy? No. Because you may be aware of all these things and you go, you know what? I really don't care that much. I've been eating cucumbers most of my life. How many people have smoked cigarettes their whole life and go, yeah, I know it can kill me. Hand me a pack of cigarettes. They don't care, right? So what the thing is that's important is you have to recognize desire. So again, just because they're hot traffic doesn't mean that they're ready to buy. They may go, I could live with buttworms. I don't care, right? They go, traffic temperature, you have to recognize that the desire is absolutely important. You have to remind them of their desire to eat healthy, their desire to support local farmers, their desire to, eat pickles that are not sprayed with a special chemical or whatever. That's where you have to reinforce that desire, which is going to remind them you cannot create desire. Every single time a marketer has tried to create desire, it fails. It just fails. You can remind them of desire. Hey, do you want to eat healthy? Is it important for you to have good gut health and not have bloating problems and other problems and potentially buttworms? Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, great. This will help you do that. Oh, yeah, okay. That helps. You just reinforce a desire that's already there. You're not creating desire. 2 very important things to remember. So you cannot create the desire. You're just reinforcing that desire. And that's really important for you to remember that. So as we put the fries in the bag, and wrap that up around vision. We talked about personal vision. We talked about business vision. And we'll talk really fast about infrastructure. Infrastructure is the bones of the business. It's the desks, the chairs, the software. This is around the Viper framework. The desks, the chairs, the software, things like that, websites and so forth. And as you're looking at this from a marketing perspective, this is where you're thinking about your CRM software, your customer resource management tools. And those are things like Pipedrive, Go High Level, HubSpot, Monday.com. These are all different CRMs which track the people who have opted into your lists, the people who have purchased from you, the people who have expressed interest in what it is that you want. So if you're in restaurants and they have come and they have signed up to be on your VIP list, you better damn well have a list. And I don't care if you keep it on the back of a paper towel. You better make sure you have a list and work that list, because those people who have spent time with you, who see and respect what you have to offer, you owe them to make sure that you're staying relevant. It is not their job to remember you. Keep that in mind. And most people in their marketing, they do a horrific job of doing that. They always are playing from behind because they're relying on their customer to remember them. And as a result, they keep marketing to the same people as if they're brand new customers over and over and over. And it's very expensive. When you're looking at other infrastructure, you're looking at sourcing software. That's where you're sourcing leads. And that is things like LinkedIn Navigator, Apollo.io, Lead IQ. Those are all different things. Those are all different applications that basically find the people that you can market to. The last piece of infrastructure I want you to think about in the marketing perspective are your automations, your integration software. Those are things where you have like email automations like MailChimp or Constant Contact. Even tools like Zapier and Odoo, they actually connect different types of software and create automations. So that's really, really critical. And infrastructure is an incredibly important component to your business and your business functions. So you might be thinking, if infrastructure is so important because we've been spending the last 30 minutes talking about it, why does vision come first? Well, I'll tell you. Let's say that his vision is to lay on the beach in Spain for 2 months out of the year rubbing cocoa butter on his belly. Fine vision. But if he created an infrastructure that's going to require him to return emails and phone calls in a timely manner, that's going to be a horrible experience for him when he's trying to lay on the beach for 2 months rubbing cocoa butter on his belly. So I'm just saying that vision has to come first, and you're going to design an infrastructure that stays in alignment with your vision for the future. So in the context of the Viper framework, we talked about vision, we talked about infrastructure. Now let's talk about process. Process is simply how you do stuff. And it comes in two different forms. It comes in tactical and strategic. So process is like how you're going to do stuff from your day-to-day, your standard operating procedures, your checklist items, your day-to-day activities. That's just basically, and that could be revolved around your marketing efforts. It could be revolved around your sales efforts, your fulfillment efforts, or your accounting efforts. Any one of those four core functions. Again, lead gen, sales, operations, and accounting. When you're looking at when you're looking at strategic planning is like, great, you built this battleship, you built this warship, now you're going to take it out of the harbor. And that's what strategic planning does. So when you're thinking about this from that component, I want you to think of the people, the purpose, and the promotion aspects of the strategic planning. So when you're looking at the people part of this business is, who do you need? Who are you going after in this strategic plan? In your marketing plans, who are the people that you're going to need, and who are the people that you're trying to target? That's really important, because again, where do you think the people come from in this equation? They come from the ideal client avatar that you defined in the 3 C's of business vision. You see how it's starting to come full circle again? The core purpose also aligns with the strategic purpose. So you might be thinking, well, we're really trying to gain market share. We're really trying to gain new customers. We're truly trying to grow by 30% over the next 24 months. Great. That's a strategic purpose. The strategic purpose also needs to be in alignment with your core purpose. Because if it's not, this is how you get that shiny object syndrome, where you start chasing too many rabbits. And when you try to chase 2 rabbits, you don't end up catching either one of them. So that's part of the strategic purpose. The last is promotion. And promotion is like just saying the same things a lot. You're saying the same things internally to the people in your organization, but you're also saying the same things externally to your customers and through your advertising and your marketing efforts and everything. So your basically promotion is just communication, but just doing it a lot. So I just want you to think of these different areas of both strategic, when it comes to strategic planning, of all these areas of people, purpose, and promotion. And that's around purpose. So then again, that's tactical and strategic. So the next component in the Viper framework is execution. The American general George Patton said this: a good plan violently executed now is way better than the perfect plan executed next week. And the reason why he said this is because too many business owners get caught in that perfection trap. Like, well, once this is perfect, then I'll go ahead and execute. And it just doesn't work that way. You just have to get the minimum viable product out there and start marketing. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because most plans fall apart in their execution. And the reason for that is because too many business owners and too many entrepreneurs specifically have too many priorities. And because they have too many priorities, it has the same impact as having no priorities. This is one of the reasons why I come up with something called a daily 5. The daily 5, when it comes to my marketing efforts, is up to 5 highly specific actions that you can take, which are going to move the needle towards your vision or your strategic plan. Either way. And I don't mean like, so especially in your marketing, especially in your lead generation function, you have to be really highly targeted in your actions, because if you're not, that's how you're going to wander. If it's going to be like, well, my 5 actions are like, first one, I'm going to be checking my email. Okay, that's not it. What I'm doing right now, this interaction is absolutely related to to my lead generation function. I get a lot of customers this way. So this is what part of one of my, now for me, I like daily 3. I can maintain a daily 3 pace, but every now and again I've got 5. But I'm saying, like, when I'm really specific and I can really dial in and really get 3 very important things done every single day, now I know I'm going to get the traction that I want. So that's also where the reporting function comes in to the Viper framework. And that is reporting. Reporting is made up of both lead metrics and lag metrics. The lead metrics are based on your actions and activities. The lag metrics are based on the results of those actions and activities. So you have to stop and think, okay, well, if I'm looking at the results and I don't like the results I want, what do I have to look at? My actions or activities. Either I didn't do them enough, where I don't have 1,000 data points. If I have less than 1,000 data points, I'm not pivoting. If I only have a couple hundred and I'm not getting the results I want, okay, stay on it. Maybe you need a big enough data set to make sure that you're making a good choice. Right now, I've got an ad that was not converting hardly any at all, and it was a terrible ad. I tested another ad and it started doing better. Well, guess what? Just because it's doing better doesn't mean I'm not going to continue to test. I'm going to try other things. I'm going to try other tests. So this is where you have to start thinking about your actions and activities that are driving the results. If you don't like the results, just check your actions and activities. That's it. So that's the Viper framework, and that's the basis of the systems model. Now let's talk a little bit about psychology. This is going to start to pick up a little bit, because systems are important, but systems are only going to get you so far. And this is where you're looking at psychology from the aspect of both personal psychology and business and organizational psychology. When you're looking at personal and individual psychology, you're looking at things like self-worth, self-management, self-sabotaging behaviors, limiting beliefs, all those sorts of things. When you're looking at business and organizational psychology, you're looking at things from both an external perspective and an internal perspective. So let's look at business psychology for a hot second. When you're looking at internal psychology versus external psychology are things related to management and leadership. When you're looking at external psychology, you're looking at things like your vendor relationships and negotiations. You're looking at politics, even things like that. But specifically as it relates to marketing, you're going to look at buying psychology. Buyer psychology is incredibly important. So we're going to talk about that here in just a second. And this is very relevant to the 4 core functions of business. And those 4 core functions, I've already talked about them already, are lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. And your customer's journey through your company happens in that order. They first experience the lead generation, then the sales function, then the operations and fulfillment function, and then the accounting function. So this is really critical to understand these 4 core functions and why the lead generation function is so important, because it's the first thing. If you don't have leads, you're out of business. So let's start to unpack how the buying psychology is relevant to the lead generation function. And this is where the marketing magic comes in. This is about having controlled growth. I'm going to put up on the screen here the 15 reasons why people buy. And I'm going to take myself down so you can take a quick snapshot of this, and also so I can take a sip of water. But it's really important for you to understand the 15 reasons why people buy, because this is why they're going to want to buy your product or service. And they will buy so they can make money, save time, avoid effort, and escape pain. Not just physical pain, it could be emotional pain, spiritual pain, right? Physical pain is obvious. But they're going to buy for more comfort. They'll buy for better health. And keep in mind, better health also means less stress. They'll buy to feel more love. They'll buy to gain praise, to increase their status, especially within their own tribe. They will buy for truth, and they will buy for truth especially if they have felt lied to in the past. They will buy for growth, and that could be growth in their knowledge, that could be spiritual growth, that could be growth in their wellness. They will buy because something is new, right, for the novelty of it. They will buy just to be have more perceived control or more certainty. And they will also buy to be in contribution. So here's your homework. And this is what's going to help you understand buying psychology as it relates to your client avatar. So before you do this, you got to have your core purpose defined. You got to have your core values at least kind of figured out somewhat. And you got to have your client avatar. Because if you're going to do this exercise without having those things at least rudimentarily defined, this is going to be kind of a pointless exercise, because you got to know who these people are. But so here's what I want you to do. I want you to answer this question. How do you get out a sheet of paper and write make money across the top? How do you directly or indirectly help your client avatar with your product or service? How do you help them directly or indirectly make money? How do you help them directly or indirectly save money? How do you help them directly or indirectly save time, avoid effort, escape physical pain, emotional pain, whatever type of pain they might have? Again, do this for all 15 of these. Come up with 10 or so, and some of these answers I know are going to be a little squirrely. Totally fine. But now you are starting to build a requisite knowledge base around your avatar, around things that are meaningful to them. This exercise is going to help you really understand your buyer at a much deeper level. And if you really want to take this to get extra credit on this, and again, the extra credit is really just going to be extra money in your bank account, is go to someone that would be your avatar. Don't try to sell to them, but just say to them, how important is it for you to make money? In what ways do you think my product or service could help you directly or indirectly make money? And you could start to interview them a little bit. And don't beat them up. I mean, don't keep them hostage for 5 hours. Just say, hey, do you have 10 minutes to maybe help me with something? And maybe ask them 1 or 2 of these. And you will get information, and you will glean information from your ideal avatar in ways that you could never repay them. And most people, especially if they are your client avatar, they might at least ask, oh, tell me about your product or service. And this is going to be really important for you to do. So again, take this time to go through this exercise, because I'm telling you, it is a very valuable exercise. So again, remember, your job is to create trust with your client avatar. And by doing this, you're going to create trust, because when you say, okay, yes, this is how I help you with your product or service directly or indirectly, by addressing their desire, the client avatar is going to say, that guy gets me, or that gal gets me. Either way, when they say that, that's how you're going to get raving fanatics. Am I making sense? So most people, remember back on the early part when I was talking about the book that I was writing, that I was trying to sell, The Time Wealthy Investor, my very first book. Most people, when they go into their marketing, they're selling features and benefits. Features and benefits. Features are like, okay, this book has 280 pages. That's a feature. It is printed on acid-free paper and really easy to read. Okay, that's a feature. Does not tell them a benefit. The benefit is you'll learn how to manage your rental properties better. You'll learn to collect rents better. But what is it missing? It's missing the meaning. And most people do not go far enough in their marketing message. If you listen to nothing else, and I feel bad for all the other people who hopped off at this point, I don't care. That's their choice. But this is the nugget that most people miss, is they miss the meaning. What does it mean for them to collect their rents in a more timely basis? It means they could spend more time at home with their kids, so they're not missing out on their life as they're growing up. It means that they're going to have more money in their bank account to maybe donate to their church or donate to their community. It means that they're going to have more time to do things for themselves. Maybe they want to go back to school. That's a deep meaning for them. So don't just stop in your marketing at the benefit. Most people only sell on their features. Well, it's 300 horsepower. 300 horsepower doesn't mean anything. It goes to 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, okay? Or 0 to 100, depending on what part of the world you're in. In 4 seconds, great. But the meaning is you feel like the coolest guy or the coolest chick on your block. That's the meaning. And that's why people are going to want to buy. So understanding the 15 reasons why people buy, it helps them understand their desire, and it helps you articulate the meaning that's important to them. Does that make sense? It's important that you understand this. So please, if you get nothing else, the feature, benefit, and the meaning is what matters most. Now, I'm not suggesting that feature and benefit are irrelevant. You have to, that's what gives the meaning context. But you do need to understand the feature and the benefit also has to align to a meaning that matters to them. And that's how the 15 reasons why people buy will help you. So this is also when you understand the headline. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. I'm just going to demonstrate to you why the headline in your marketing is so incredibly important. I actually ended up testing a couple of different things related to this actual course. My first time that I actually put this out there, I called it the lead generation multiplier. And everybody hated it. No one signed up. Not one person. Actually, no. I think like 3 people actually signed up, but no one showed up. I did it literally to an empty room. And then I called it marketing magic. And I had all sorts of people showing up. And then I called it marketing magic for business owners. I had fewer people showing up, but I had more people who were showing up that were actually business owners. Interesting. So again, this is why you have to test, and you have to test different headlines. So then I tested, okay, so this was my first one, lead generation multiplier. Everybody hated it. Then I called it marketing magic by Strategic Boardroom. Then I changed the color, marketing magic. And then I changed the title a little bit, and I really feel like I got it dialed in. Will I still test? Yes, I will still test, because I'm not going to be happy with whatever it is I have. Even though it's working, great. I can still try something new and just continue to test and test and test and test. So the trust triggers, I talked about the trust triggers earlier on. And these are the just different areas where you can actually create trust with your avatar. And these are just things that can trigger trust. So you don't have to have all of them, not like the 7 areas of trust where we talked about competence and competence, character, caring, commitment, consistency, communication, and what was the last one? Consistency. So those 7 elements of trust, that's not this. These are a little bit different. So when you're looking to trigger trust with someone, you can trigger trust by demonstrating authority. How do you demonstrate authority? You can have a title, you can have position, you can have credentials, you can have a book. Literally, author is in the title of authority. And I have a course that talks about writing and publishing a book. As a business owner, it helps demonstrate authority. You can also trigger trust by having affinity. That is a correlation. That's where you see familiarity. Oh, I've seen that guy around town, or I've seen him around, or I've seen his billboards, right? Or whatever. It could be a shared geography. It could be a shared platform like Facebook, or even a shared interest like a football game or something along those lines. Affiliation, it sounds the same, but is not the same as affinity. Affinity is about a shared like interest or a shared geography or a shared platform. Affiliation is being associated or connected to a trustworthy source. That could be like a chamber of commerce or something along those lines. Okay. So that is important. Number 4 is endorsement. That's when you have someone, especially who is really interested, like somebody who other people are interested in. That could be like a celebrity, someone along that line. That's an endorsement. Like just think like, hey, I know a guy, and that's an endorsement. Number 5 is demonstrating competence. I've already talked to you about that. Demonstration is really important. And 6 is vulnerability. And this is something which is also really important in your marketing, and something called a damaging admission, where people are saying, well, I really totally messed this thing up. Let me show you how I got it right. I used to think this, but then I made all sorts of mistakes, and now I think this. Let me show you how I do it. That's called a damaging admission. It's about showing some vulnerability. Hey, I don't have it all figured out, but this thing, I feel like I do have it figured out because I've made so many different mistakes. And people really appreciate someone who is vulnerable. So again, we talked about the 7 different areas of trust. Just to putting this back up here for a quick review, because we're getting ready to land the plane here. So again, competence, character, caring, confidence, commitment, communication, and consistency. All 7 elements must be present. Whereas the trust triggers, you only really need 1 to help create an environment of trust. So the last component here are just some different resources. If you've got any questions, go ahead and type them in. I can hang out for just a minute or two. I do have a hard stop at the bottom of the hour, but I am letting you know, like, there are some resources that I have, and they will all be around these different areas of the 4 core functions: the lead generation, the sales, the operations, and the accounting. And I just want you to understand, like, this, I'm going to take myself down so you can see this picture a little bit better. But when you're looking at the 4 core functions of business of lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting, many people look at it as once the lead generation is done, the sales function picks up and the lead generation piece doesn't have anything else to do. I get that, but that's not actually how I want you to think of lead generation. I want you to think of lead generation like this. I want you to think of something that I refer to as infinite marketing. This is the infinite marketing concept, where lead generation never, ever, ever stops. And if you look all the way down at the bottom, you'll see a little infinite symbol down there, where it continues on all the way through the sales function and all the way through the operational function and long after they have paid the bill. That way you're not having to remarket to these people as if they were brand new customers. So when do you stop marketing to these people? Okay, there are times when you might need to consider, okay, they haven't ever responded. When do I stop marketing to them? Okay, if they have shown you or demonstrated to you that they are not your client avatar, maybe your own core values have changed and they no longer align. Maybe their core values have changed and therefore they no longer align. Maybe they have demonstrated to you that maybe they started treating your people badly and you're not about that. I've had that happen and I have fired customers over that. Again, that's also would demonstrate a misalignment of core values. So they've demonstrated to you that they're not your avatar, saying, man, look, I moved out of the area. I'm no longer in your same geography. I used to live in Africa and now I live in Asia. I'm never coming back. Yeah. Right. So that might be a reason, like, I don't have any family there. There's no reason to keep marketing to me. That would make sense. Or if they're not aligned with your core values. And there's a third option: when they have died. Okay. And assuming you don't like to necessarily work with dead people, that's probably a misalignment of core values that may be a little redundant. But the point is, you keep marketing to them. keep marketing them, because even though they might be a one-off customer, maybe they've already bought a car, or they bought a roof, or they bought a website. They're going to need, maybe they know someone else who might need the same product or service. So don't ever stop marketing to them. One last couple thoughts here. I see that people tend to go to automation a little bit too soon, or they reject automation altogether. So again, I just want you to keep in mind when you're looking back at infrastructure, look at automations and integrations like the ones that are up on the screen, MailChimp, Constant Contact, Zapier, Odo. Like, consider these different things, because once you know their problems, that's when you can deliver value to them to help solve those problems. And you're going to want to deliver tons of value, and you can do that with very little effort through automations. Give away tons of value. Again, remember what we talked about. Demonstrating competence is the fastest way to build trust with your avatar. And you can do that through those automations. So, assuming you don't have any questions, that's fine. If you've got any questions, hurry up and get that typed in. If not, we'll go ahead and land the plane. But I asked you in the very beginning about seeking knowledge to understand versus seeking knowledge to take action. And I just want you to think about that. Like, what are some things that you're actually going to take action on? If you want to type that in, like, hey, I'm going to take action on this. This is something I really need to research. I need to research my avatar a little bit better. I really need to sit down and think and pray about what my core values are, or what core purpose the direction I'm being led in. Either way, I don't care, but make sure that you're taking the action that you need to take. Otherwise, this just becomes another 90 minutes that you're not going to do anything with. The last component to this, it's actually kind of a silly story, but it's a true story. Let me take myself off the page here. What you're seeing here is a bank robber who's holding a gun on a bank teller. And you're seeing this, so what happens here is this guy, he made no attempt to disguise himself whatsoever. And these two guys, MacArthur Wheeler and Clifton Earl Johnson, robbed two banks with no attempt to disguise themselves, with the exception of rubbing lemon juice on their face. They fully believed that it was going to make them invisible to security cameras. And this was so baffling to researchers, these two guys named Dunning and Kruger, that they wanted to see the role that false confidence plays for people, how that role plays. So if you see the two axes there, one on competence on the bottom and one on confidence on the y-axis, you'll see that basically people start out here at the bottom where they're very low on confidence, but they also don't have very much confidence, they don't have very much competence. But very quickly they go, well, how hard can it be? And they're very, very confident very early on until they learn a little bit, until they get to the peak of Mount Stupid. And then all of a sudden they start to realize, oh, this is going to be a lot harder than I realized. Remember where I was trying to sell books early on? Well, that's where I was. And then I realized, oh, I don't know what I don't know. And I fall down in this valley of despair. But if you keep at it and you keep building on your competence, you might be having a crisis of confidence right now. And generally this valley of despair is where a lot of people tend to bail out. But if you stick with it and you walk up that slope of enlightenment and you keep working on your competence, eventually you get to the plateau of sustainability. And that is where I have this strategic boardroom room to help with this community. So if you're interested and you'd like to join this community, right now that's the link that you can go. I'm going to come back to your question here, Ariana. So let's see here. We've got the school community, which is, I'm just going to go ahead and put this in the link. Right now, there's a pretty low priced option, and there's also different options that you can have that are paid. If you're interested in, and this depends on how fast you want to go. If you're looking for very fast action, you can, or very, very fast results. You'll probably want more of the one-to-one coaching options, and you can see the coaching options that are available. Or if you just want to be along to the community, again, there's one for a pretty low price. So you can go and check that out. But one other thing, and that's the Strategic Boardrooms school community. And there's also, I have a money and finance business owner bootcamp coming up. It's in a couple of weeks on a Saturday. It's a 3-hour session, and basically it's going to be live. I've actually got a pretty low count in here, so I'm not going to allow too many people sign up for it because I want to make sure that I have time for one-to-one questions. And it's really, if you don't understand your finances, if you don't understand balance sheets and income statements and things like that, again, there are this is really going to help address that. And you also get access to the money and finance video course, the advanced video course, so, which covers all sorts of different aspects of money and finance. So if you're interested in that, you can go to the Eventbrite calendar and you can sign up for that. And I can go ahead and put a link to that in the here we go, paste, and there. So you can go up and sign up for that as well. All right, so I've got a couple questions. Let's see, I've got any book recommendations about marketing. I'm glad you asked. I have lots of book recommendations about marketing, but it just depends on what area of marketing you're trying to do. I am a Dan Kennedy fanatic. I think that guy is an incredible genius when it comes to marketing. He has written, I've read about almost every book that he's put out there. I don't think I've got any on my bookshelf right here. He's got several in the No BS series. The No BS series Guide to Direct Marketing is probably one of his best. He's got, I would probably start with that one. That one is really, really good. He's also got, he's got one that's called Almost Alchemy. That one I actually do have here. That's this one here. That's Almost Alchemy. That's really, really good. And that is really, really good. If you're looking at one that's specific to copywriting, and this one, even though you might be thinking, well, how does that relate to marketing? If you understand copywriting really, really well, you're going to understand marketing. And this book here, the Adweek Copywriting Handbook, is by Joe Sugarman. Joe Sugarman is an absolute genius when it comes to copywriting. And if you can be an effective copywriting, copywriting is basically sales, or it's basically marketing. It's like basically salesmanship in written form. So it's really effective when you are trying to learn to be a good copywriter and actually have really effective ads. So hopefully you found a little bit of value in that. That's probably the two that I would recommend the most. As I'm sitting here looking at the rest of my books, there are so many books on marketing out there, but those two books, Dan Kennedy, the No BS Guide to Direct Sales, I think that's the name of it. It's a black covered book, really, really good. Almost Alchemy is another one of his, and then the Adweek Copywriting Handbook by Joseph Sugarman. So that is everything that I have today, guys. Thanks so much for sticking around. And if maybe I'll see you guys at the Money and Finance Bootcamp I've got coming up. I still got slots available on that one. If you are interested, that would be great. If not, I will see you in the school community. And if not, I will see you guys next time. Either way, I'll see you guys in the boardroom. Take good care.